So I'll call the meeting to order. The Public Works Committee meeting at 7:15 on Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019 in the first floor conference room at the City Hall. Item number one, call the meeting to order. With that, my name is Thad Kubishek. I'm committee chairperson, and we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves.
Tom Realm, Alderman, member of the committee.
Scott Kelly.
Sitting in for the vacant position. Thank you.
Shane Blazer, Alderman.
Mike Sullivan, citizen.
Mary Jo Carson, a citizen.
Rosemary Felice, board member from Park Place.
Jane Orcutt, Aging and Disability Resource Center.
Jim Geniak, citizen.
Joe Eichstadt, city engineer.
Joe Terry, Director of Public Works.
Zach Joey.
All right. With that, we will go to item number 2, review and consider approving the installation of a permanent sanitary sewer line at the Public Works Sign Shop building. And this is a referral by me. When the new West Side lift station was constructed, there was either some kind of oversight or something else where in the construction plans there wasn't a sanitary sewer lateral that was being put into the manhole. And currently right now there is, without being too crude on it, there's a hose situation that's going into the manhole, but it doesn't have the proper permanent sanitary sewer lateral running to that. And there was a change order after the oversight of this not being in the original construction plans of the West Side lift station. There was a change order proposal from August Winters for approximately $13,000, and at that time it was recommended by staff that we don't accept that because it was considered too expensive, or we thought we could do it, or we thought we could subcontract it out to a local contractor. And it hasn't been done. We haven't discussed it, and that's why I wanted to put it on the agenda, because winter's coming and we just can't empty into the manhole the way that we're currently doing it. So that's an overview on that. So
Where are we at? What's the options, or what are you thinking of?
Correct. What I would say is I'd make a motion to direct staff to gather proposals for the installation of a permanent sanitary sewer before the frost gets into the ground, and then we can't do it anymore.
I'll second. Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion by Kubishek, second by Kellogg, that we, I'll put it on in the motion by Kubishek, second by Kellogg, to approve authorizing staff to gain proposals for a permanent sewer lateral at the sign shop building.
I guess my only questions are, the sign shop, what's the long-term use or status of that building? Are we going to maintain it? Are we going to, I guess, what are some plans, or what's maybe the capital improvements plan? What is the plan for that building? I guess that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as
I forgot.
yeah, that's a good question, but
Maybe Joe could answer that.
as far as any plans to tear it down, I think that it's I actually toured the building, and having 20 years of construction experience, having a block concrete building in that, I mean, it's in beautiful shape, you know. So even if we were to use it for something else, I know 3-4 months ago I met with the mayor, we toured it, and even if we had used it for other purposes, whether it be for the zoo or other things, there's no way that we could replicate a brand new building of that for what we would pay for a sewer lateral, including up to $13,000. So even if the building was repurposed, it's a beautiful building in great shape, and it just only makes sense to have plumbing in the building. So, yes.
A couple comments on it. First off, just as a point of order, our chapter 2 of our city code, if it's a building related item or non-right-of-way related item, it really should be a property and finance committee item. In this particular situation, the future of that building has not been decided. The temporary system that's in there is really only in there because there's roof drains that dump into the old wet well. Otherwise, the initial plan, until a final decision was made, could be indefinitely, was to, as needed, come over with a vac truck and just vac out the wet well. The wastewater generated by the staff at that site's almost nothing. The wet well could handle that material for months and months, especially over the winter months when you don't have a lot of rainwater precipitation going into the wet well. The only issue is that, in the spring, summer, when we have rain, we set up that pump with a float on it to discharge temporarily. So I guess a couple comments. One, we didn't budget to do this. Number two, we don't know what the long-term plans for the building are. As it stands, for it to be used for or repurposed for public use would be really challenging, and it's questionable without the building inspectors present or having reviewed it with them, that the change in use that it's currently being used for would be allowed to continue. It's not ADA compliant. I mean, there are so many things that are just, when the building was built for a wastewater treatment plant back in the 40s, it was fine for that. But it's no longer being used for any type of wastewater treatment. So I'm not sure that change in use would allow it to continue in the configuration that it's in. I think if we had an issue where we needed sanitary sewer service there, I would concur that we'd want to get something hooked up. But as it is right now, the temporary works. If we needed temporary over the winter, that could be insulated easily. And I don't think we're going to have any issues. I think that system can be shut off for the winter, and we can probably pump it out if we get a warm spell and snow melts on the roof and it starts to fill that wet well. So those are just a few comments, but again, we could maybe check with the city attorney, but these
Point of
areas
order, I don't think that it's proper for you to be pointing out that this is a point of order because you're not a parliamentarian. The city parliamentarian was here earlier, and without her being present, I don't think that we can discuss that.
Okay, I'm just pointing out the ordinances are clear, and these items are in contrary to our city ordinances.
Mayor?
I would concur with the proposed motion. I think the zoo, I would just point your attention to the zoo master plan, which contemplates one of two things: the building being present or the building being gone. Both fitting in with the zoo master plan. The zoo continues to experience unprecedented attendance every year, and I think it's an asset worth exploring. I'm curious to see what the costs come back. I have no idea myself, so I'm interested to see that, so I support the motion. To your earlier point, I'll make my comment, Mr. Chairman, because it was at that same meeting with this change order was declined that you directed these items to go to the Finance and Property Committee. So my question would be, would the proposals then go to the Finance and Property Committee for their review?
Well, I think that maybe the approval could go to the Finance and
Just
Property
curious to
Committee,
know
but
where
I don't know why we couldn't direct staff to seek proposals for this. Because this is a public works related issue.
And perhaps because it was part of the scope of your...
And it's kind of time is of the essence too. Winter's coming around.
I'm just looking for clarification from folks because it was you that made the suggestion that all these items should go to Public Works, the mayor, and others shouldn't be perceived as making the decision. So I think thanks for the clarification, I guess, on that point.
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to take leadership, so I put it on my agenda. So with that being said, a motion on the floor, second. All those in favor of the committee, vote. All All those in favor say aye.
Could you repeat the motion, please?
Motion was to authorize staff to seek proposals for a permanent sewer lateral be placed at the sign shop, or be constructed at the sign shop City Oak building. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We will go to item number 3. Review and consider approving changes to the northbound and southbound driving lane configurations on East Street at the intersection of Chestnut Street. And this was a referral by Alderperson Kellogg, and we've got a printed copy here in our account, in our committee package, but if you'd like to address that.
Yeah, I just have a concern when you go east on Chestnut to make a right turn on 8th Street. It's such a hard turn, it's like a 45-degree. And I don't know if the alignment on 8th Street and the lines have to be changed or what have you, or that corner, that would be the southwest corner. Maybe should be a 60-degree rather than 40. I don't know. But I think that should be looked at, because once we open up the aquatic center, we're going to have more cars, more pedestrians, more kids, and it's just difficult. And I'm not an engineer to know, should you change the alignment on 8th Street? I'm thinking you could narrow some of those or what have you. But I want that to be considered this year so that it's in place before we open up the aquatic center. So that was my recommendation.
And I'll concur, and I'm glad that you brought that as a referral, because I've been working at that project. And off of Chestnut, whichever way you go, if you're going westbound or eastbound, and typically I'm going eastbound and taking a right by where the Family Video used to be at Dollar General, I've got a standard pickup truck, and I can't even make that corner if someone's taking a left corner from northbound 8th Street turn lane there. So I got to go straight. So it's something needs to change.
Well, my concern too is we're familiar with it.
Yeah.
So you're going to get people hopefully coming from Stevens Point, Marshfield, using our facility, and they wouldn't have a clue about that. So this should be something we should look at.
And it should be something easy. You can grind the paint off and repaint the lines.
Yeah.
Isn't this what we just did about 2 years ago or something?
Relatively.
Because of there were other ideas that were talked about what to do along the street there, as I recall, but business owners there didn't want to give up property or whatever the issues all were, and that was the design that was come up, and I just think it's within the last couple of years, thereabouts, that we did this. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that we just had the study was done, and that's this was the result that was come up with.
Well, I think
That's to lay it out that way.
Exactly.
So I'm not disagreeing necessarily with what you say, but we just who did the state, or who do we have involved? I think you guys.
So just for reference sake, but can provide a bit of background on that project, when it was done, and what some of the design standards that were used for the project. So this was a highway safety improvement project, so it was federal funds that were used to fix a safety issue at the intersection. So that program was used for this intersection, it was also used for 8th and East Grand. Both of those intersections were fixed with that program. The specific safety issue that was fixed was right turn collisions on 8th Street. So the focus was providing left turn lanes and a positive offset of those left turn lanes, which essentially means that if you're approaching the intersection and want to make a left, you can see beyond the other opposing left turning vehicles for oncoming traffic, so you have a clear vision. So the
lane widths, the dividers that were painted on A Street were sized to facilitate the safest correction to that, the most correction to that safety issue. So in the design process, the question arose on the right turning traffic on Chestnut Street onto A Street. And so the very question that you brought up here about how tight it is, and it is a tight radius. Comparing the radiuses to the other intersections along A Street, such as Airport Avenue, Pepper Avenue, 2 Mile, Griffith, it's got a smaller radius. The scope of the Highway Safety Improvement Program is not to buy right-of-way and to deal with that. It's meant to fix safety issues quickly and expeditiously. So back to the lane dividers on Chestnut Street. It was a debatable item to keep those lane divisions in there. The prior painting had them in. We chose to put them back in with the repainting of the intersection.
And that means that the through lanes and the right turn lanes are segregated. It's not just one lane, you can turn left, straight, or right. It segregates those activities.
But that lane between straight and left is quite wide. Can that be narrowed?
It's slightly wider, maybe by a foot or so. I'm not sure that it would have a significant impact on.
I'm just thinking it would bring
turning.
a car making a left turn on the Chestnut would bring it over maybe 2 or 3 feet. If we can bring that car over, then you can make the left turn off of Chestnut a little bit more manageable, I think.
Well, and to add what Mr. Keller was saying, you mentioned it, Joe, the intersection at East Grand. Now, that's a little bit bigger intersection, but that has a narrower like turn lane. Can we do that in this? Because it still offsets the cars. It's still, if you're turning left, you can still see past to see if people are coming. If there's another person in the northbound lane turning the opposite way, but it shrinks it down. That's it's so impossible. And then if you have someone standing there, ready to walk across the street, because I'm not worried about my pickup truck tire going over the curb. But if someone's standing there, I'd be really concerned about taking them out on that side, because that's the blind side of my car, and looking in the rearview mirrors. So it's 3 feet would buy a lot of real estate, that's for sure. So I mean,
So just on that point, as far as making changes to the pavement markings on A Street, we'd probably have to go back to the DOT just to understand for sure if the agreement that we have with them and the use of the federal funds has a certain duration, like a maintenance requirement associated with them, that their federal funds are used to fix an issue related to the right turn accidents, that as long as our state municipal agreement doesn't have some sort of limitation on when we can make modifications to that, that would be the only thing. Because it would, shrinking the pavement median on A Street would reduce the offset for vision on those left turning vehicles along A Street. But on the lane dividers along Chestnut, the reason the lane dividers are in there, the through and left and the right turn, or right and through and the left turn, lane divider, it's really to keep a level of operation, level of service of operations for traffic on Chestnut getting across A Street or onto A Street. If I recall from the design, the level of service impact wasn't that great if we have lane dividers or not lane dividers. And so it might be, like I said, it was a debatable item to put the lane dividers back in, but you could forego, you could remove the lane divider, and essentially you've got one lane approach to the intersection on Chestnut Street, which would, gives you a lot more room to make that turn. You wouldn't have a left turn lane. You'd have one lane, and you could go any direction.
So the potential impact for that is if you have a left turn vehicle waiting, you might not get the rest of the vehicles through the intersection on a green light. You might have a cycle failure then where maybe that left turn vehicle actually does get to go through on the yellow, but the rest of the vehicles are stacked up. I haven't looked at the, I don't think we've done a recent count to say for certain that that's a concern or not. May not be a concern.
Yeah, I couldn't see too many people going east on Chestnut, crossing 8th Street to be that much of a concern. When I'm there,
It's the
I
left
used to
turn.
one or
It's-
two cars.
Yeah, it would be a left turn off of Chestnut onto 8th Street in either direction, east or westbound in either direction, would prohibit anyone else on Chestnut from going through the intersection if we change that. But, I mean, it's something we can,
Well, I think we could, I don't know if that's the concern that we're talking about, because I think me and you are kind of saying that we would shrink this, but still keep the lane dividers on
Yeah.
Chestnut. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the lane dividers are doing fine. It's just that now, if there's someone turning left hand going northbound on 8th Street, they're just too close to the center line, or over the center line, actually. But that's where it is. So would it be proper to direct staff to reach out to the DOT
Yeah.
to get confirmation on what we would need to do, or if we can change it with the municipal state agreement then?
Well, it seems to me that one space is 10 feet wide. And if we just make it even 8 feet wide or 7 feet wide, and you can still see around those cars when you're going ahead.
That empty space.
Yeah,
that
that
void.
empty space.
Yeah.
Why 10, why not 7? You know what I mean? And that'll give you 3 feet for those turns.
Exactly.
So I think if we could have the engineering department explore with the DOT as to what are some options.
Do you want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. We got a motion on the floor to direct staff to reach out to the DOT and find out if we can make modifications on the pavement markings as far as this intersection is associated with this intersection. I will second that motion. Any further discussion on that?
I'll go along with it, I guess, just to see what they come back, or, what DOT would say.
Sure.
I understand what you're saying, it is, because I do go there occasionally on that, but like I did say, this is a recent thing that we just did, so.
Oh, the aquatic center,
Yeah. Oh, wow.
makes it important to
Exactly.
do.
So we've got a motion on the floor, a second discussion. Yes.
I was just going to offer that intersection's actuated after the improvements were made on Chestnut, so if there was an issue about queuing, the fact that it's actuated would keep the level of service vehicles moving, which is a positive. So the decision, which I would concur, living 4 blocks from there, that having that lane divider on Chestnut gone probably would allow folks to move closer to the center line and then make a wider turn than what the sharp, narrow turn is under the configuration today. So those would be just my 2 comments about the actuation that it moves when vehicles are there.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carried 3-0. We will go on to item number 4, review and consider approving changes to the lawn mowing practices and procedure on the City-owned Boulevard at the south side of the expressway between Lincoln Street and First Street South. And so what I'm kind of talking about is over, kind of across from the hospital on the south end of the expressway across from the hospital. And Mr. Blazer was the one who brought this referral.
I talked to Joe about this too, and I realize that there's safety issues with lawnmowers, but, well, I don't know, that's one of our main thoroughfares through town, and I think it absolutely looks hideous. I think it's not kept well. I know if we throw some seed down and call it prairie grass, I couldn't get away with that in my yard. I know I'd get a letter saying I need to mow my large yard. I think I can't believe that we spend all this money on equipment, that we can't find a piece of equipment that will allow us to mow it. Or, I was driving through Point Iverson Park, they have a rot thing on there, on a steep hill that I can't remember what it says, City of something, but come up with something other than just overgrown grass. And I'd just like to see us explore some other options other than not mowing.
I think it's Park Ridge, Village of Park Ridge, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's the city of.
What does it say?
sprinkling water or something like that. It's in Iverson Park there, but it's on a steep hill, and it's probably the same reasons why, with the mowing issues and safety issues on the mower. Obviously, Mike's probably ridden on a mower or two here, but I just think it looks horrible. It's our main throw through town, and it just looks overgrown grass that we can't figure out how to mow.
So we can, we've got, the equipment that we have now has tilt sensors on,
Yep.
so they won't operate on a steep slope like that. There are some mowers that are specifically made for mowing steep slopes. We don't currently have one of those. The other issue is time. With the equipment and staff that we have, we had so many complaints about the conditions of all of our parks and grounds that we had to look at taking a step back from mowing everything. Over the years, the staffing levels have changed, and so that was one of the areas that we looked at. If there are some other areas where there wasn't really anywhere else where we felt
Save a ton of time.
we could, right. At this point, even if we had a specialized piece of equipment, we'd still have a time issue there.
And that's been my argument with phase 1 and phase 2. We're taking on more maintenance. We're unable to maintain what we already have. So, and I've been saying that since we started this, and I've said this at other meetings, is why are we taking on more projects when we're throwing aside and not maintaining other ones? We have to not do those projects or make them maintenance friendly. Because at phase 1 and phase 2, there's going to be bushes, and there's a lot of higher maintenance type things in there. So we're going to have to end up freeing up more time and not do something else. So we need to hire the staff or not make it so maintenance heavy that we can't even do basic mowing on the Expressway Hill. And that's been my argument with these projects, and that's why I seem to be against a lot of this, because we can't figure out the maintenance of these projects because of staff, because there is maintenance heaviness, and I think it looks good, and we need to maintain what we have. So we're going to have it, let's maintain it. And if we have to look at staffing, then we need to look at staffing. Or if we don't have enough staff, then we can't have these things that we have to maintain. It's got to be one or the other. But we just can't stop maintaining to maintain the newer stuff. That's my concern.
Especially right in the middle of town.
If it wasn't such a, everybody drives by there. It's a main drive-through, and it's our expressway, and that's your cut through town, and it's just overgrown. And it looks overgrown. It doesn't look like it's something special. It just looks overgrown.
Committee members.
Hang on.
Any committee members want to speak, or because then I'll go to the audience.
I guess just one quick one. I think with Shane for the most part. Again, I think this was actually may have been discussed at one of the committee meetings, maybe in Park and Rec at one point in time about that hill there, what to do. But it's gotten. I've had a couple complaints myself on it about what it looks like and that, and there may. I'll listen to, hear what the audience does have to say, but I think if there are alternatives to put something in, such as, maintenance-free something that's there instead of what it is now, that, I'd be willing to listen to that. Solly mowed lawn for a long time. It'd be interesting to hear what it is to say, Mayor. Former chief.
Yeah, we'll go around that.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you got?
All right. 2 weeks ago, I was told by the mayor that it was to make a prairie garden. And they do have a few flowers. And to me, if somebody wants a prairie garden, maybe they should go to North Dakota. I mean, come on, they're not pretty out there. But anyway, if they're not going to mow that hill, how are they going to mow the one across the river or across from the hospital on the other side that they just built, because it's the same steepness?
Yeah, we're not mowing it. The real steep stuff, we're not.
And you didn't get rid of the Toro lawnmower, and that would not cut off on it. I mowed for 36 years with that Toro. Not that many years, but I mowed that, and it wouldn't cut off on it.
No, we've got a Jacobson.
You got a Toro.
Well,
I seen it. You still maintain the Toro.
There is one left, yeah.
And that only takes about, I could probably do that in 45 minutes. So you're not saving any money. 45 minutes, come on.
All right, next.
I'm on the hospital board, and we're trying to bring jobs to town. We got a lot of jobs to fill. I would really like it to look nice as you come to Aspirus Riverview Hospital. And let's be honest, we really need to remember there are a few places that are going to hire that kind of folks. And we're very fortunate because the hospital's doing very well, and we intend to grow it. So we'd like to grow it with you and make the community beautiful. And if you don't mow across the street on 3rd, that's really not going to look so nice, Joe. You
Yeah,
know?
we'll mow everything that our equipment can safely mow.
Well, we don't want to get hurt. I mean, please don't misunderstand me, but if you put it in, then why put grass if you can't mow it? It's just like everybody else has said, let's put something else there that you don't have to worry about and you walk away from. So it looks like it's been put there to be beautiful and be there for a long time, like rocks or whatever. I mean, I'm just very proud where this hospital's going, and we all should support it. We should be very grateful we have our hospital. And I would really like to see us work together on fixing this. Now, I don't know how, but we need to be in the loop because a lot of good stuff's happening.
Jim.
Couple of things. On Monday mornings, I'm in a golf league that plays 5 on a team, and there's 2 tees right side by side, and you kind of get the chit-chatting. I have told people till I'm blue in the face, call your alderman. They don't. They come to me, and the same as they'll come to you. And it's terrible. That's the politest way that I can say it. The constant statement is they still have the equipment, they can mow it. If you want it to look good, mow it. Thursdays, the same thing. Wednesday morning for the Vets Cafe, the same discussion. It looks terrible. The equipment is there. If it isn't there, acquire it. Why did they buy equipment that won't do the existing jobs? So I'll get off my high horse, but it needs to be mowed.
Thank you.
One other thing is I never mowed that hill when it was in the morning or wet. I'd leave it for a day or 2 if I had to, but you can't mow it when it's wet. That's the only thing. It'll slide down it, but it ain't gonna go anywhere. I mean,
Yeah, it's got kind of a flat, you'll just slide down it.
I mean, you've got to wait. You got to use your head and say, well, I can't mow it today. It's due on there. I'll wait until 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Sure. Community members.
Well, basically, a hill's been there for how many years? You know, I mean, and this is the first time, you know, I mean, now is the first time we're talking about it. So it seems like if you've been doing it, and you know, with a certain type of lawnmower or what have you, let's cut it, you know. So it's nothing new. I mean, it's new across on 3rd Street with a new park, but I mean, we're talking about basically, and the same circumstances would be then in a new park. So, yeah.
Yeah, just looking at the piece of equipment that we have, that Toro 15-degree max. So it doesn't have a shut-off sensor on it, but if you're mowing steeper than a 15-degree slope, you have the risk of tipping the machine over. It's just, you know, we're looking at safety for our staff and time. I mean, if we can authorize some more time and some overtime for staff to work, and we can get some equipment to safely mow something like that, I'll send them up there. Otherwise, it's like we do. Bloody 07 is with string trimmers.
would there be other lawnmowers? I mean, what we
There
have
are.
for...
So there's some steep slope mowers that are basically designed so they have 2 drive wheels, and then the mower articulates, the whole deck articulates, but you'd be spending a lot of money for a piece of equipment to mow a small area. So we'd have to look at, again, with our equipment budget, we'd have to look at what other piece of equipment do we get rid of so that we can add this piece of equipment to our fleet. Can be done, just takes money. But I'm also stuck with, you know, what we have budgeted in staff and.
There, Joe.
My only comment, Joe, is then why do we keep planting more grass? I mean, look at all the other places we planted grass. When I was mayor, the guys would start on one end of the parkway, they'd mow all the way to the other end, and it took a week, right, Sully?
Oh, more than a week if it was.
Okay, well, I know you went back and forth.
7 miles.
Yeah, they knew what it took, they had it down, we took care of it, including the hill, okay? However, how much more grass do we have now? No wonder you don't have the time. I mean, why don't we, just like Shane said, when are we gonna quit planting grass for us to maintain? You got a lot of parks
I don't know that we have
didn't
more
have.
though.
I beg your pardon?
What more parks do we have now that we didn't?
We have the one right across from the hospital. That's got grass.
We were mowing that before.
Not to the level you have to now, because there's a lot more sidewalks and there's a lot more.
True, but we haven't mowed it this summer.
Oh, no
I mean,
wonder
we mowed
looks
it a
that
couple
way.
times. Well,
Okay.
yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah,
Contractor
I would
guarantees,
just
stuff
like
like
to,
that.
all I'm saying is I agree with Shane, let's think before we plant any more grass. Because we're obviously mowing too much grass, you know?
And no more prairie grass.
Mr. Blazer.
I guess, Joe, I'm gonna argue though that you're usually here in the meetings arguing for phase 1 and phase 2, and we need to do these projects. And you've been a big proponent of the aquatic center. And we haven't even discussed the maintenance costs that that's gonna involve, and what are we gonna have to not maintain to maintain the landscaping and everything around there. And at some point, something's gotta give. And I've asked over and over about these maintenance costs, and we never get any answers. But now we're gonna have to figure out how, because you need more money and more equipment. But it's never at the time, we gotta do these projects. But nothing said about what equipment and what manpower we're gonna need to take care of it. And now here we are, trying to figure out, we can't even get the Expressway Hill mode because now we need overtime to take care of that. And we're just adding and compounding more projects and more things that staff has been very supportive and very outspoken of. But now it's all of a sudden like, well, now we need more equipment and we need overtime to maintain these things. Well, I know I've been asking about maintenance since day 1 on everything. And here we are, you know, where we're gonna have even more maintenance problems once that aquatic center opens up. 'Cause there's gonna be maintenance and we all know it, but we don't know what it's gonna be. And more time, so are we gonna pay overtime people to keep the aquatic center running? These are all questions that have to get figured out before that opens up. And we need to know if we need to have additional staff and realistically say, we need more staff to get these things done, or we have to not mow our parks or something. We've gotta get this figured out because we can't just keep not doing stuff so we can maintain the newer things. Yeah, and if we're gonna buy a new lawnmower, why don't we buy a more, pay a little bit more that can mow a hill instead of buying a cheaper model that can't mow the hill. It's just kind of frustrating. So I
Yeah,
don't
the
know.
hillside mowers tend to be specific. You normally aren't gonna mow,
Oh, you can only mow.
well, you can, but you're not normally gonna mow a ball diamond with a hillside mower.
Right. But if you.
It's not maneuverable, it isn't, you know, the zero turns, we've gone that direction so we could get more of our summer kids on those pieces of equipment so that we can try to get more of that work done with the staff that we have. But I don't think we've added any more mowing. It's just that over time, there's been reductions in, you know, in capabilities of our staffing levels.
But we keep doing more projects that the aquatic center is going to require more maintenance. Phase 2 and phase 1 require more maintenance, I'm sure, than just the park that we had in Demitz where you just drop the mowers and mow it. There wasn't sidewalks, there wasn't equipment, there wasn't stream crew. around the exercise equipment. There wasn't hills or there weren't all those things. You could drop the mower and go, right? Which is going to be a lot quicker than a park with all kinds of features in it. So it's costing more time trying to do those things. And that's my issue.
Jim, one more time.
I think that if you just tell the concerned people to do it, that they have to do it. They gotta find a way, figure out how to do it.
So as a committee, do we have any motion or anything to direct Public Works Director to find somebody to mow that, or take a string trimmer for summer help, or what do we want to do? Is it?
Summer help's probably gone, aren't they?
They're all gone.
For now,
Long gone.
for this year. I get, you know, I'd like to see us do something different. You know, I don't know what a hill lawnmower would cost. I don't have any idea what the cost would be for something like that. Time of the year that we are, or in the budget, you know, budget processes here, that it might be time that we just, you know, at least see what something like that would cost. Because we can't, you know, we couldn't go buy anything without knowing what it's going to cost ahead of time anyway. So I mean, to see what something like that would cost, I think it's, as we're heading into the fall, the growing season's come to an end as far as that goes. That it, you know, it may be a project for the council, but some other concerned committee or group in town that may have an idea of what to do, so, you know, of something versus other than a grassy area that has to be mowed or something, that maybe there's something else that could be done. That, you know, now may be the time over winter to, yeah.
That's crazy.
That, and they're not cheap, I'm sure of that. So.
Yeah, and they're specialized, but.
Yeah, and, you know, that with the budget process, it may be time to look at what a cost of something like that would be, but it may be, you know, also time of what could be done different than what we have. So it wouldn't have to be mowed, but I think there's also something that that I think the council has to take into consideration, and I think that we are running, you know, I hate to use the word short of people because, but we are short of people. That to get this work done, that even to have, you know, if we had the right equipment, that we need more people. And, you know, and in this case, it may be one person that could solve some of these problems. But this might be the time of the year to look at all options of that and of how to proceed. And you know, the prairie grass was looked at. I'm not sure if it was Park and Rec, but it was on a. Some group came to some committee or something to look at doing something along that part of that hill anyway.
They did.
That triangle, yeah.
It hasn't grown.
Yeah, and you know, what could all be done? You know, not to drag this out, but and across from the hospital, that part of what
What could be done? I know I don't like to use the word contract out with stuff that we can do in-house, but there's got to be a firm in central Wisconsin that's got a mower like that, yeah, for now, or for, you know, even into next year type of a thing. Someone's got to have a hillside mower.
Yeah.
I mean, and that,
Or if we had that Toro, cut it down.
Well, but again, you're asking people to do specifically what the manufacturer says you shouldn't be doing on that equipment. It's not safe.
Maybe contract it out.
and that's what, yeah. That we have to, you know, the safety part, we have to stay very concerned of that. take is one thing and one time to happen, and and the thing is when you know something and then go ahead and do it anyway, that makes it worse. That almost doesn't fall under an accident then. I'd rather not, contract it out, but
If I could make
do we
it,
have to do anything? Do
If I could
we have
make-
to do anything for the rest of this year? I mean, because the growing season coming to the end, I mean, do we have to, I'd like to see it done myself and chopped down, but
Could we bail it?
Too steep for the baler.
I don't know.
I was just gonna suggest, this is a discussion item. I mean, we can come back with some other options and see, what can we do with the staff that we have? What might that look like? If there are some other areas that we could sacrifice. Some of the other areas that we haven't chosen to mow, haven't had a single complaint, and I don't hear anybody else complaining about those areas. So, we can do an audit of what we're mowing now and see if there's something else that we could walk away from, and the public still finds it acceptable. And then see what we can do from there. We can come up with some options and report back. As far as funding for a contractor, maybe the city could work in partnership with the hospital if the hospital's interested in helping in some way. We can see if there's contractors. We can come back with some possibilities.
Conversation is always good. Conversation is always good.
Mr. Blazer, do you got any final thoughts for if I make a motion to table it till next, or actually postpone, I would make a motion to postpone till next committee meeting, put it on the next committee meeting's agenda. So I make the motion, any second? Second by Ray Ohm to postpone item number 4 till next month's Public Works Committee agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. We'll go on to item number 5. Review and consider approving the creation of an ad hoc committee to oversee a citizen-sponsored tree replacement initiative for Robinson Park and other areas in the city from the aftermath of the catastrophic storm that occurred last July. And this was one thing, Mr. Sullivan, you had approached me on that, and do you got any updates or anything, or how?
I don't. So we talked to the mayor about it. He was enthusiastic about it. What I was thinking of is a memorial tree project. I don't have any down pat on it, but if he talked about he'd like to see bigger trees the size of that pop bottle planted, and he says they worked out well along the riverbank where they just put them. And I agree with him. When you get something older that's more well established, the kids are less likely to break them off. You get these spindly little ones, and I know what the kids do with them. They'll jump on them, they'll break them off for fun. But you get something thicker, and they'll probably think twice of that. And you pay $300 for a tree, he said. Buy the water bottle along with it. And I don't know what a plaque would cost, $60, $90. But if you had a plaque and you could put it on a big log, this is what I'm thinking. Put it on a log on a pedestal right by the Robinson Park parking lot there.
And so what you're talking about is just one plaque with everybody's name on it who donated or purchased the tree?
No, I'm talking about individual plaques.
Okay.
If you want to memorialize your father or grandfather who died 50 years ago, you'd buy the plaque and the tree, and then they would put it on, say,
On that log.
You'd have to debark the log, somehow. But they do have one that's over in Ben Hansen Park. I'm not sure how good a shape that's in or not. But either that, or you could put up like a board right by the parking lot with a name of people that donated to build that park. But we need some new trees, a different variety of trees, because there's so many diseases coming our way. you don't know if maples are gonna be next, but they do have a disease-resistant elm now. And years ago, elm trees were a tree to plant, you know. And if we can find that disease-resistant elm, maybe some oaks, maples.
Mr. Allen first.
Yeah, I did get calls from a few people. Actually, I met with Sully and a few other people a couple weeks, Mondays ago, I think it was. There's a lot of tree damage around town. I think what, the biggest part or the damage that I think people noticed is Robinson Park. I mean, it was devastated. It was devastated almost 20 years ago, and it was finished off just about this time. Even though there's trees left, because for people that would see it now, once it'd be cleaned up or something, they think, well, it might be a lot of trees, some people might think, but compared to what it was, there's hundreds of trees that are missing in one park. That we have people on staff, I think, that to help us out. Otherwise, even I don't know what they have at Midstate. They do have a forestry program. I don't know what they all do there at the school that they provide. But I think some type of ad hoc committee, in this case, maybe to look at all the parks, but I think specifically to start with, such as Robinson Park, I think to be looked at. It was, I think, and still is, the jewel of the park system really in Wisconsin Rapids, and it has, money and whatever has to be put back into it to bring it back if that's what the community wants. And I'm all for, however, we can acquire trees from through donations and that type of stuff, but I think along with what we do there, I think along with foresters or whoever, what would be the kind of trees that the soil there is for, and all that type of stuff to go in to be looked at. But I think before you just plant trees, of what do you want to have in the park? We have the disc golf course. I stopped there a few days after I was there. A couple guys were there. Should they have been? I don't know. They didn't drive in the parking lot. There were the roadblocks, and they didn't move them. I had seen people that moved it so they could drive in, and there were wires down, but there was no power. But anyway, so I talked to these people and asked them about, I never disc golfed, so I hadn't there, and they were waiting to see how, after it was cleaned up, to see what would be left as far as the course went. Because trees there is what is part of disc golf. I mean, it's an obstacle or whatever you want to call it to go around to get to where the cage is to get the disc. So I think along with the tree reforesting and that, what all do we want the park? There is a volleyball court there that I think the plan actually calls for 2. They're not sand volleyball courts. I mean, there's grass that's there. So I mean, along with that, I don't know if it's, there's just, I think, things to look at the whole park, including the band shell and all that stuff. So what the whole scope would be, and not that we, $100,000 has to be spent overnight in 1 year to do something. What would be the plan over 5 years or something to accomplish the project, but not to plant trees where something else that we may want to do. So it'd be to lay out, to have a plan of where to do everything. That's my thoughts, my concern of that. It's still part of my ward. My ward has shrunk actually, even though we've changed considerably over the time, all these years I've been on the council. But I still do have a Robinson Park. I'm just on the other side of the highway from it. So I'm very interested in it. But I think the time unfortunately, what's happened with the storms, but now is the time to take a look at how to rejuvenate the park overall.
I agree with Tom. I think we should figure out what we want to do with the park instead of just planting trees everywhere haphazardly. I don't know, Sully, at the last meeting that Joe brought forth, a request to apply for a grant for up to, I think it was $50,000 for the purchase of trees. So the city is starting that process of trying to come up with some funds. But I agree with Tom. I think we need to figure out a plan of what we want the park to be, and then plant trees all around. You know, there's been talk, I've heard in the community, we have tennis courts, we have all these around the city, and we have other courts and other things, but we don't have a basketball court complex. You know, maybe Robinson Park would be a nice place to have some more outdoor basketball facility. I think we should get a plan what we want to do with the park, then go crazy and plant trees.
Yeah, I think we've heard from a lot of residents, staff has also, about interest in focusing on Robinson and an overall plan. I think that there is a little confusion, certainly a little confusion by me. The Parks Commission has a complete charge, supervision, and management of all parks. And I know the Parks Commission is reviewing this matter. Staff recommendation would be that any ideas or whatever that would come out of this committee would be a referral to the Parks Commission. That if the Public Works Committee would take action on powers and duties that by ordinance are given to the Parks Commission, it could result in some confusion between who's doing what, right? So,
Well, and that's why we would be creating an ad hoc committee, not a commission, because a commission is a citizens commission. We'd be creating an ad hoc committee of committee members of all the persons who have the direct authority to specifically create a plan for Robinson Park. So that's what this is.
okay.
So,
You got 2 urban foresters now hired for the city. And I think they're capable of telling you where to plant trees and how to plant them, because I've seen on TV, they did a nice job of planting trees, demonstrating it, and they know what they're doing, I think. And they know what trees are probably good for that park, that type of soil with the acid soil.
Does Park and Rec have like a master plan or something like that they oversee? Is that something we at Park and Rec could go and have them look at that plan or I guess I have to apologize because I don't know the Park and Rec. I've never been to a meeting, maybe a few times, but I don't know how they govern or operate the park in the sense of, do they have a plan for each park or how that works?
Yeah, so there are master plans that have been approved by the commission for the parks. There's funds set aside that they are able to use specifically in the parks, that the ordinance spells out that they have that. So, I think any ideas to run them past the commission is very appropriate. Like I said, I just mentioned, it would be confusing based on our ordinance if we took action where the powers and duties specifically give that commission complete charge, supervision, and management of all parks. I mean, to be a part of that discussion, we can, as individuals, as all the persons, we can attend those meetings and participate. But again, I don't want to get confused.
I'm not confused. I mean, this is easy. I mean, we create an ad hoc committee and we do fundraising. We generate revenue. One of the things that's unique about donating to a municipality versus creating a nonprofit organization is that the donations are tax-free. So you can write it on, it's the same as a charitable organization, 501c3 charitable organization. If you wrote a check for $300 or whatever it is to the city of Wisconsin Rapids for a segregated fund specifically for the purpose of creating this. So
Well, part of that committee could be made up of people from the Park and Rec too. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's a ad hoc, right? I mean,
Yeah. And the ad hoc is specifically for a specific purpose.
Right.
And once that purpose ends, then the ad hoc
Yeah.
ends of it, so.
So they can report to their commission and we can report to the common council.
Correct, correct.
The mayor actually had an email, I do believe, about, this was on our agenda and that, the Park and Rec would be taking it up. I meant to bring it. I must have left it at home. I don't see it in and I don't remember for sure when he would have sent it, but it had to do even with a individual interested in being involved with it, if it was donations, whatever, towards trees and that type of stuff.
Matching funds or something even? Was it a significant donor of matching funds?
I don't think it had to do with matching funds, it was just somebody that had,
Yeah.
just somebody that had contacted his office about it. So, this is where at Tide, we run it with the different commissions and that we have, that things that we think may fall under certain committees, don't necessarily do that, but could an ad hoc committee be put together or formed that may be something, but the Park and Rec, I think Joe's saying there has their say-so on what takes place in that, so. But again, that we all, however, whatever we do here tonight, that we all can lend our input or whatever to the Park and Rec Commission, and that. In fact, it was discussed at the last commission meeting that I was at. Also, you didn't know about it, so I don't think there were a couple other people that didn't know when they were there about this issue was one of the things with Robinson Park. So. So what would, again, go over the ad hoc committee?
Well, it would be creating an ad hoc committee to oversee a citizen-sponsored tree program for Robinson Park. But basically, because a regular citizen just can't come on board and start directing staff or directing other persons or directing other people, but if it's an ad hoc committee that we create, because we can create any subcommittee we want, we can create any subdivision, and it would be referral in nature, much like any other committee, so therefore the council themselves would be the ones that would ultimately approve any authorizations necessary for that. But it would basically give direction and or limited authority for the people that really want to take this by the horns and go out and donate and go out and fundraise and grab donations and see that this happens, because my fear is that this will get kicked down the curb, and 3 years later, finally we're addressing it. We've got some individuals who have got a lot of passion right now, and I don't want to lose that. That's what the purpose of it would be.
I guess I don't have a problem with maybe taking that step and do that, but I guess at the same point in time to see what real duties and whatever the Park and Rec Commission, what they have as far as, because there's a, they have a budget to operate within and whatever, and
That's why I said you have to be part of the ad hoc committee, some members. So there's communication between all parts.
Correct, because what we're looking at with the, you know, the fundraising that would come in, there's going to be no city money that, or no non-donation spent, you know, for that. That's what this committee would be overseeing. That, because there isn't a budgeted amount for it, and the Parks Commission has their certain autonomy and their certain budget, but this would be just specifically for the fundraising aspect of it.
So it also just, okay.
I just hate to see that the two work against each other, because Park and Rec has the authority. They can raise money and spend money in the park. And we have an ad hoc committee that's being put together to do. I just don't want to see them working against each other, or for the same, or working towards the same goal, but doing two separate efforts. That'd be my only concern, is that it doesn't become redundant. I think, or I believe, that Park and Rec Commission governs and has all authority over the parks, which the council has given them that authority. And I just don't want to see us working against that group already. That's my only concern.
I think it could be synergical in terms of that they work together, and 2 + 2 equals more than 4 on this. You know?
And that's what I hope to see, and not an effort, each going an effort one way, and it's counterintuitive.
So, yeah, and that, so, you know, all the ground would be covered, and, you know, not, you got 100 places to go to that 2 different groups aren't going to the same 25.
And I just
35.
I just get a little concerned if we're overstepping as a council our bounds over a Park and Rec Commission, because that's all that's going to do is frustrate them as a commission.
Right.
You know, that's my only concern, is, you know, where that. I should really go to any meetings that they have regarding this, because it'd be pretty relevant. But I don't know what work they're doing or have done on it already, or what their meetings have come up with.
It just, you know, the storm is happening. I think they've only met once. And in fact, I was somewhat surprised that they met, because of all the work that the city crew was doing. If you know, if Matt was, Hyman would even be able to be there and that type of stuff, because of all the storm damage that there was. But they didn't call a meeting, had a meeting, had several items actually. So.
Yes.
Yeah, looking at this email, there's a note that this specific item, Robinson Park, will continue to be discussed at the upcoming Park and Rec Commission meeting in September. You know, so I think the suggestions of ad hoc, I think all of that, if that's referred to the Parks Commission, I can't see where they wouldn't be fully supportive of it.
Well, then I'll make a motion to postpone this and put it on next month's agenda, just in case something goofy happens in the meantime. Just in case we have another storm. We had some wind last night.
Well,
except I didn't wake. It didn't wake me up. I slept right through it.
Well, they had thunderstorms warnings. We didn't miss it by a lot, but Clark and Taylor going to get started with when I first saw the TV.
Well, do we want to recommend to the Park Commission?
Or we could do that.
I mean, otherwise it just dies right now.
Then I rescind my motion. Then.
You know.
If you got.
Well, to recommend to the Parks Commission that a ad hoc committee be formed, made up of citizenry, aldermen, and Parks Commissioners to determine the
develop a
future
plan.
For Robinson Park.
I like that. I'll second that.
And then it's referral to them, so it should be on their agenda.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it.
I'll vote for it.
So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. So we will go on to item number 6, review and consider approving an authorization and release of request for proposals for Centralia Center parking lot pavement project. And this was brought to my attention because there was some concern that the parking lot got postponed until next year. So is the parking lot still being done this year, or is it getting postponed until next year?
Well, the plan is to do it this year. The current, we've already let our asphalt contract and we've let our curb contract, so we have pricing for, unit pricing for all of it. The council also approved the developers agreement, which the city will coordinate the parking lot work with the developer's parking lot work. So it's not a patchwork, so that it's a uniform project. The plan at this time is that they will be doing curb work as well as the city then in the month of October, with the expectation that binder will be down on the entire site before winter, and that the finish asphalt work would occur in the spring. It'd be challenging, I think, for the city to try to do the city portion. It'd be a violation of our agreement, but logistically it'd be challenging. You wouldn't have, it wouldn't blend in properly. It'd be best to have it all graded essentially at the same time, which is what we currently have plans to do. So, you know, I think what we've what we've planned and what we budgeted, it's already there. It's budgeted for this year. It's coming out of the Centralia Center maintenance fund. So if it happens where 70% of the work's done in 2019 and the other 30% is done in 2020, it's really not a budgetary issue because that fund exists for the maintenance of the Centralia Center. So it's certainly a high priority project. Last year, because of the apartment project, the condition of the parking lot was such that we did lay in a thin layer of asphalt in places where we just couldn't continue to patch it, and it's not ideal, but we certainly don't have the potholes that we had last year there. And we do have some areas that have needed repair, but again, with the storm damage, we're behind in our regular maintenance work. But that's certainly an area of focus, just like any other area. So I think we've got it handled. But if there's something that you're looking to do different, I guess we'll take that direction.
Committee members.
Well, I have a question, and because what was done at the Finance Committee earlier this evening, I guess I'm interested in the layout of the parking lot.
Sure.
That, the 3rd Avenue staying as is, that, and maybe it's put in there to refresh my memory. Can it, or is it showing that the entrance and that to the parking lot would be at the south end of the parking lot?
Correct.
As if the road was straightened?
It doesn't matter.
So the entrance is going to be moved.
The entrance is going to be moved for one critical reason. That's to try to make the lot as safe as possible to traverse, so we don't have cars using it as a thoroughfare running right past the entrance.
Yeah.
We want that entrance area. If people are walking from their vehicles to the entrance, we don't want to encourage that through traffic. So having that kind of work its way through the lot really reminds people it is a parking lot. It's not a street or an alleyway or something. And any concentration of vehicles is kept far away from the main entrance. Any entering, exiting movement.
I was hoping, but I had to refresh my memory.
Yeah.
And I got the other with that, where the and I don't know if we had any discussions on this at all or not, but with the apartment complex in the back there, and the underground is off of 7th Avenue there, and the above ground, if I recall right, behind the apartment complex comes in off of Hale Street there, correct, I think? For the above ground part?
So there is.
Well, now it's blocked off, or at least it was.
So there is
The stop sign was there.
There'll be an access drive to all 3 parking lot components off of Hale.
And I guess I'll just mention, and what, I don't know if we ever talked about it, would it make any sense to block, that they could still come in there to park in back of the apartment complex, but by having that there, that in itself somewhat creates a thoroughfare for people just sneaking through to go past the Centralia Center, actually out onto 3rd Avenue.
But it also, though it also serves the VA.
Right, and that's the other one.
And there's two entrances to the VA. One's off of Hale and the other's through the parking lot off of Third. So
Yeah, and I was just wondering if it would make any sense that somehow that they could come in off of Hale to park in back of the apartment complex, but actually they may have to go to the VA, would have to come off of Third Avenue. That if that was somehow, blocked off there, that you could drive through out that way. I don't know if that'd make any sense or not. If you follow what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying. And I think in the future, if we were having some problems, we could look at different ways to address them. But I think this layout's going to work.
Okay. No, it's
But
just
again, we can always address it if we have issues come up.
It's just a thought I've had where people now use it as a way through, from 3rd Street to for whatever reason, to get through there instead of driving around to Chase Street and going around that way. Okay. And they won't be able to go, well, actually, I guess with redoing the parking lot, the entrance is going to exit, and that's going to be on the far end there. It won't be on the curve there now either, so, okay. Yeah, so, committee member, no.
Rosemary.
I have a question of Joe. Where does the sign go then?
The Centralia sign will be basically the same place as it is now.
And so when you close off that entrance, then you actually gain some parking, right?
Yes, there'll be parking that continues to the north. And if the street alignment stays as it is, that entrance area right now just becomes green space, with the entrance being moved further south otherwise.
So the daycare is protected?
Yes, correct.
In doing that?
Yeah, and the parking stalls extend further to the north, essentially to where the pavement, the driveway is right now.
You walked it out when we were there.
Yes.
You showed us.
Yeah. Yeah, that layout works for any configuration of Third Avenue.
And how many parking spaces does Centralia then have? 7,500?
No, it's, I'll have to look it up and get back to you. Is it 130 or 140? Maybe it's more than that yet.
I think it's over 100.
I'll have to look that up and
That
get back to
doesn't
you.
include VA though. They have their own.
Right.
That was more.
Yeah, there's 60-ish, I think, at the VA. But I'll look that up and get back with you guys. I've got your phone number on my desk.
Thank you.
Joe, the timetable on the parking lot really is contingent on the apartment building's timetable.
It is.
And then, okay, that's why I can.
It also works well with our construction work. We're obviously trying to make sure that we're getting Chase Street done, our last big project this year. And that grading work should fit really well with our current progress on Chase. So,
I thought that they're being done as one and not patched together.
yeah.
It makes sense why it's on our apartment schedule.
But it'll be smooth, so that there isn't a risk of people falling. That's really what you want to eliminate.
Well, with the binder coat, because the concrete's going to be poured, there is going to be potential lip areas around where there are concrete islands in different places. Now, I would assume that they're going to ramp it up by the entrance, put some type of a paper down and then put an asphalt ramp so that,
Our proposal for the entrance is to expand on, right now there's one handicap ramp at the front door. We're looking to expand that whole area so that basically the entire drop-off is a handicap accessible ramp area. Because right now somebody parks and they've taken up, maybe they're just unloading and it takes 10 minutes. But for someone coming through the parking lot with a walker or whatever that really needs that handicap accessible ramp, it's not accessible to them anymore. So we're going to expand on that so that we're trying to maximize.
I'm sorry, I'll clarify. When a binder coat is put on, it's 1.5 inches to 2 inches or whatever it calls for, or the lower. So when finished concrete is going to be, after the second layer is on, then its elevation is 0 degrees sloped up to whatever. But prior to that, they're probably gonna have to put some
Correct.
ramping or wedging or whatever
Correct.
you call it on there.
Yep.
But they probably won't do that on the islands that would be on the
No, it would just be the
parking
handicap accessible areas adjacent to the building.
lot. So there could be kind of concern. So as we move forward with this, maybe an advocacy in notifying, participants that once this binder coat gets put on, and it's typical, especially in late fall, to just put the binder coat on, and then spring you actually put the second coat on. And so I understand that, but notifying that there could be some trip hazard areas deeper into the parking lot then.
One more question is that when you start working on that, then that kind of eliminates parking for people while you're working on that.
Well, we're planning on trying to phase that in 2 phases so that we're going
Okay.
to try to work on
Still be
half.
hard. Okay.
It may be gravel for a little bit, but we're not going to try to tear it all up at once. We're going to try to do it in pieces so that we're going to provide as much access as we can during grading work. So it will be congested. It'll be, I'm sure, some dust and complaints.
Well, and if you have
But-
any kind of weather that
Yeah.
causes.
But we're going to do what we can to try to keep access in that south end of the building.
Okay.
115 parking stalls.
115.
Anything else on item number 6?
No.
Otherwise, we'll move forward. Item number 6, questions were answered and everything. So item number 7, review and consider approving proposal from MSA for the 2019 traffic study. And this is one that, Mr. Eichstadt, you brought a referral, correct?
Correct.
Give a brief overview of the referral. So this is, everything in the referral is part of, is included in the 2019 budget. So the whole traffic study was initially included in the budget. It's kind of broken up into 3 parts. If you've got the document available, the very last page of the proposal kind of outlines the tasks at hand. It's all structured via like a la carte sort of setup. So at any point during the progression at each of the intersections, that is kind of tier-based. So you can, if something warrants going further with the study at a particular intersection, we can make a decision right at that point in time to say, yeah, take it because of what we found here. Let's take another further look at the operational safety issues, perhaps. So, given all of the tasks that are identified and all of the intersections that are going to be looked at, the traffic counts and analysis, that portion of the work comes to about $32,800. That'd be a maximum, not to exceed the cost. What we had budgeted for that is just over $33,000 out of the engineering budget for traffic control. And then task number 9, so 1 through 8, that was the $32,800. Task number 9, traffic signal modification design plans. Those are both budgeted separately under the Public Works Construction Fund for improvements at both of those intersections. They have associated costs of $7,900 and $5,500 to develop those plans for a total cost not to exceed $46,200. We request the proposal and have worked with MSA to develop the document. So I mean, from a staff perspective, we're recommending approval of the proposal.
So this 46,200 is budgeted somewhere cumulatively in the 2019 budget.
Yep.
Committee members, do you have any questions? Mr. Glazer?
I don't know if I publicly have asked this, but it's, at some point, we're spending 46,000 here. Does it make sense to eventually hire another engineer? Because this is not a specific or a unique, like a aquatics engineer, something, because spend a lot of money with MSA, and at some point, does it just make more sense to have another engineer on staff to be able to work on project to keep us ahead, to do traffic studies, or is that traffic studies and those type of things, a specific type of engineer that I'm just, not that I want to increase another engineer, but at some point, does it become more cost effective to have an engineer on staff to be able to do these things, to work on keeping us ahead on design of roads, doing sort of traffic study type things?
I think it does. I presented a memo earlier this year when we were reviewing the engineering department staffing levels and organization, that we did hire a consultant to assist with the design of some of our construction projects so that we can get ahead to follow our city-approved policies. We want to have these projects designed in advance so that we can coordinate with utility contractors, we can be prepared and take the time to study the plans and make sure that from a construction aspect as well, we're ready to go. And the city's been challenged to do that. We got some assistance. We got ahead. We're dealing with a number of projects right now. This year's an unusual year. But even so, it looks like we're going to have to do the same thing again in a few years. And given the costs, I mean, we just spent $60,000 to have Third Avenue designed. That's most of an engineer's salary. So there is a memo that was submitted. We do believe it's cost effective. To have the engineering department with 3 professional engineers on staff doing engineering related work, which is essentially what the department had. There have been some, and at that time we struggled as well. But we've made some improvements in how we're doing some things. We have different expectations with how our public works staff work together, and but long answer to a short question, yes. When it's appropriate to do so.
Well, how many man hours does this take if we had someone on staff doing this? Because I think, like you mentioned, Joe, is at $60,000 for East Grand. How long did that take to design? Or do you assume that it would? Because, I mean, do we got enough work to warrant that? And then do we have enough work moving forward to warrant that? And by all means, I would rather do it in-house than solicit a firm, regardless if it's MSA or whoever else. But that's kind of going back to the idea of why you contract out, because you don't know. And that's like in the construction business, sometimes it's cheaper to rent, like concrete forms and pour it, even if you could have bought them 3 times over by the cost, because you can almost justify renting because you got to pay for it. But now what do you do 5 years later? You've got all these concrete forms that you're not using anymore because it was a one-off project. So now you got to pay to store it. You got to make sure, and then so it's one of those where it's kind of a balancing act. But if there is concrete numbers like this that show that, and we could even go in the past 5 years and see the different projects. I mean, this is something that's almost easy.
Right, you can add all of MSA or whatever together, you could have paid for a professional engineer for 10 years.
Correct.
Type of thing. I just think I'd rather see us keep it in-house if we can.
And so then,
have staffing for it.
So that goes back to the question, because when the unique thing about a firm like this is that you can have 5 different people working on it at the same time for if it's a short, condensed project. So with something like this, how many man hours, and I'm not looking for an exact number, a ballpark, is it 3 months it would take one person to do? I mean, because if it takes 6 months and then it takes 6 months to draft the project for like East Grand, well, now you got 1 whole year And then have you met that salaries plus benefits plus whatever mark? I don't know, you know, but no, I mean, if this is like a 3-month project, that's a 3-month project in terms of man hours. Now we got 6 months that we can get ahead with, absolutely.
I'm not opposed to it, just whenever I see when we're paying out that kind of money to an engineering consultant, that's always in the back of my head, like, maybe at some point it just makes sense to hire another engineer, and maybe we can get ahead of that.
Well, and I know that I remember you mentioning it, Joe, but I don't remember seeing a memo. Who is this memo?
So the memo's internal, but I mean, it's a memo, so I can get it to you.
Either get it to us and human resources, especially in terms of budgetary purposes, because it ain't gonna happen. There's no wages in there. But if we're gonna almost intend on entertaining this, how important is this to get it done now as far as this goes?
Why?
Because if we were hypothetically looking, if we were really interested in, you know, investing in ourselves and finding a position for a new engineer, you know, within the department, is this something that we could potentially like table until someone came aboard, or is this something that time is of the essence with us?
Well, I guess just to speak briefly about the traffic study type items, there's certainly aspects of it that could be done in-house. Some of the components, I mean, they're professional traffic operation engineers. They get additional accreditation other than just professional engineers that really focus on the traffic signals. And so their professional judgment, in some cases, is specific. So not all of it is very specific. Some of it could be done in-house, but to point directly to like a 3rd Avenue or a Chase Street or a High Street, those are, you know, bread and butter of the engineering department. I mean, that's the type of projects that we do, we're familiar with, very comfortable doing, and to see those get farmed out, those are the ones that are hard to do. But in an effort to get 2 years ahead and try to maintain some of that, I mean, that's what we were focused on doing. And so we've got data on all of that, on what it's cost over, you know, what specific years and projects, and what we have hired consultants to do.
I mean, that should be a no-brainer.
I guess, you know, maybe, and I'm sorry I sidetracked it, because, yeah, that's something I think we can look at down the road, just something outside of this, because obviously I think hiring another engineer is not going to be a quick and simple task, and getting that budgeted through. So don't let that sway you from the traffic study, but I think it's something that seriously needs to be looked at.
Well, and related to the traffic study, you know, it is directed by the city engineer. The components of the traffic study that we want them to do is driven by our city engineer. And so if we were to have staff that were capable and we had the time to do some of these items, we would be doing them as we are now. But I think that, you know, this is a comprehensive package, and we certainly recommend, you know, approving it. We're not locked in that it's going to be this particular dollar amount. It's a not to exceed. So.
Well, so then with a cost like this, we'll use $46,200. Approximately how much of the fees for this would be if we had more time? Could we significantly reduce that by only hiring a la carte services from MSA for that specific traffic count engineer person? Because that person probably is only spending, say, even 50% of the time, because they've got other people in the firm, younger members of the firm that probably do the busy work.
It would depend on who you had on staff. You know, one of my emphases in studying in college was traffic engineering. I've been away from it long enough, I wouldn't be comfortable, you know, but it does depend on who you hire as far as what their skill set is and what they've emphasized their study and in practice in. So it'd be hard to say in general, right? It really depends on who you're looking for and what skill set we need as an organization.
And I think that goes back to the idea of contracting out, because you can get a very specialized mechanism with this. So, I mean, I'm not absolutely not opposed of looking at the idea, especially if we can run the numbers, and the numbers show that it would be cheaper for us in the long run to add a position. I mean, we don't even have to find budget numbers. We just shift, budget numbers from kind of like the capital side to the operating side. So, but with that being said, if this is recommended and this isn't something that we would be able to save anytime soon, then I'll make a motion for approval.
You make the motion?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Motion on the floor, second to approve proposal from MSA for the 2019 traffic study. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, 3-0. We will move on to item number 8. Review and consider removing the no parking restriction on Baker Drive between Washington Street and Franklin Street. And I believe, Mr. Ike said you had brought this forth too.
Yeah, so there's some remnant no parking restrictions on Baker Drive at the Boys and Girls Club location at 1921 Baker Drive. Boys and Girls Club have relocated over to Pitch School, and there doesn't appear to be any reason to continue to restrict the parking at that location. It's the west side of Baker Drive, 60 feet north of Washington Street, 280 feet north of Washington Street, between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. on school days, except for school bus loading. So the recommendation would be to put forth with the city attorney, put forth a draft ordinance for council to modify Chapter 27.
Committee members? Mr. Blazer?
We're good?
Any objections to it?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve recommendations from Mr. Eichstadt.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Move on to item number 9. Director of Public Works report.
I'll be very brief this evening. I do have the report online on the Public Works page of the city's website. A couple highlights, just like to kind of point out that we are still dealing with a lot of Diggers Hotline locates. We had 316 of them last month. A lot of those are, we've got utility work that's going on, but there's also tree and stump removal. I want to point out for our 2020 projects, preliminary surveys are complete for Washington Street, 12th to 18th, Jefferson Street out in the Industrial Park, 2nd Avenue South from the Expressway to 10th Avenue South, 10th Street, Grove to Airport, and the survey crews are currently working on 18th Avenue from Russell to West Grand, and 11th Street North as time allows. They're also supporting the construction crew. Designs are about 30% complete for Jefferson, 60% for 2nd Avenue South, 75% complete for 10th Street, and 75% complete for Washington Street. So we are a little behind our goals, but again, the department has been extremely busy, and so given the level of responsibility, they're doing very well. Just as a reminder, when you take a look at this report, I would encourage you to read through it and pay attention that the street department crew worked on cleanup. Everybody, the construction work group, all of the work groups, parks, everybody, through the 12th of August. And there are still pages and pages of activities that are complete. So just take a look at those and read through those for your own benefit. Wastewater, I would like to mention that the Dewey Street Lift Station influence screen rehabilitation is complete. As staff, we really debated back and forth whether we replace that screen or rehabilitate it. At the end of the day, we decided that parts are available and to rehabilitate it. As it turns out, the rehabilitation was successful, and that work ensures the continued longevity of the critical equipment that the city has a long-term investment in. And the rehab, and I don't have the numbers here, but the rehab was completed at just a fraction of the anticipated cost of replacement. So I was real proud of that work group for their diligence in getting that screen updated and repaired.
And yeah, I don't remember what the numbers were, but I think that it was suggested that if this was successful, it'd be a very significant cost savings versus purchasing it.
Yeah. But again, there are 5 pages worth of activities, and it's in summary format. So I'm extremely proud of the work groups, and especially since a good part of the month was still doing brush.
No, Public Works Department's doing a great job still. Any questions, comments for the Public Works Director's report? Otherwise, we will go on to item number 10, referral list. We'll review this. And I thought that after looking at this, I thought that we had taken something off that I left on here, except I don't know why I didn't notate anything. Yes, sir.
Just, I actually had somebody from Public ask about the public access to Norton Pond. Where are we at with that, or what's going on with that? I can't remember. I remember you updated us last month, maybe?
Yeah, so we haven't had time to give that a real priority look. It's certainly on the radar screen, and I think when we start getting this year's projects wrapped up, we'll have some recommendations. I know as staff we've talked about some trails and some potential language to turn that into a public access area.
Perfect.
So it isn't forgotten, and we've been discussing this on and off for a couple of years. So as soon as we get a few of these major projects closer to being wrapped up, we'll
He's looking forward to
spend a little time on it.
He wants to fish in there, but he wants to do it legally.
I think hard in there.
You could take my referral off.
Oh, okay.
It's been there. If I do something, I might do something with a ward, just brainstorm with some of the constituents.
Sure, perfect. I'll just quick read through this, the ones that are still active. Request from Alderperson Tom Rayom to discuss future of A Street. I think we're still kind of talking about that, correct? Develop a street resurfacing program separate from but complete complementary to the chip seal and street replacement program. I think we're going to keep that on there. Request to review multi-year capital improvement plans. I know Joe mentioned that he's still working on that. Request to review areas of public access at and around Norton Pond. We'll keep that one on there. Request to review amending ordinance. Wastewater Treatment Commission to allow the chairperson. Okay, I think that's the one that I had crossed off there. I'll take that one off there. And then request to review storm sewer study for 1 Mile Creek from 16th Street to 2 Mile Avenue. I think did we talk about that? We were going to keep that one on there still. And is there any more that we need to add? I didn't have any on my list. But we're going to have to start getting into the budget season too. Well, we'll review all the referral list, nothing else. We will go to item number 11 and adjournment to item.
We adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting ended 8:59 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
And are you now on?